All right, today on the pod we have three-time All-Star and author of one of the most torrid postseason streaks I have ever personally seen in my life, Daniel Murphy. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Laura. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that intro. Turned into a little bit of a pumpkin there at the end of that 2015 postseason, but it was a run on the way there.
I mean, it was pretty incredible to watch. That was the first that was the first World Series I had ever covered as a reporter. So watching that was just like flabbergasting. I'm sure people still ask you about it all the time.
It does surprise me because like when you get in the midst of it, you're just kind of competing with the boys, with the fellas, and some of those guys I had known for almost a decade, and so I don't recognize or realize some of the reach that our team in 2015 really captured, especially Mets fans with. And so the stories and the personal stories I get from fans about, I was with my brother, or, I was watching the game with my dad, like that really warms my heart that we were able as a ball club to kind of connect with the fans that year. Wish we would have finished it off, but we'll settle for the pennant.
Did you find any sort of, I guess, echoes of that in the 2024 team? And I mean, how did you kind of like consume that season?
Mm. I think that we were similar in that I wouldn't say there weren't expectations, but the expectation they were exceeded by each team. The 2015 team, the Nats didn't play quite as well, and so I wouldn't say they left us in it because we played well enough to stay in it. We probably won about 11 in a row, I think, early in that season, and kind of were able to ride that almost to the trade deadline, and then we make the additions of Cespedes and Addison Reed, Kelly Johnson, Juan Uribe. And I think you could see some of that with the 24 team that, played over expectations, maybe got there a year early. You could say that even with our pitching staff in 2015, like, with Matz and DeGrom and Harvey, like Matz came up later in the season. Syndergaard, I don't know if it was his first full year, but, our entire pitching staff really gelled together. And in the 24, you talk about the, special home run that Francisco Lindor hit. That's special and a memorable moment for me because our whole family was there. So we got to
Oh,
throw out the
really?
first pitch. Yeah, my oldest son Noah caught it for me, and he had to help me because I'd almost threw it to the backstop. But there we were in our seats watching the ball game, and Francisco hits that huge grand slam, and it's just like now you're onto something because once you're one of four teams left, why can't you be the one that wins it all?
Right. I mean, I guess kind of shooting off of that, how has the way that you consume baseball changed over the
Hmm.
last few years now that you're in retirement?
So I tend to the Mets fairly closely, partly because I'll get to have conversations like this, and I'm humbled that people like you ask, and then I get a chance to do some of the games with Gary Cohen, and so I try to keep as close a pulse as I can on that ball club in totality, and then somewhat more individually along the league. Like I want to watch DeGrom, like I'll watch Jake pitch,
Mhm.
like I try to make a point to do that. And then someone like Ryan McMahon, who's with the Yankees, I'll watch him because it makes me feel young since we played together my last year in 20 in the big
That's
leagues.
cool.
And so it's kind of individual. And then I'll watch kind of teams and see how they're going. Like I'm into the Red Sox a little bit right now. They've had a little bit of a slow start. And it is interesting to see how the Northeast fan responds to their ball club because
Hmm.
they are
I'm sure it's
extremely
positive, right?
knowledgeable.
I'm sure
Well,
it's positive.
if they're playing well,
Yeah.
there's nothing more, I would say, more what they have your back more than any fan would, I think, maybe in the entire world. If you're not, and it's not even necessarily the wins and losses, maybe more so than if they feel like they see bad baseball and
Mhm.
baseball that you're not paying attention to the scoreboard, you're not knowing your responsibilities. Like that's where I'm really impressed at how much they understand baseball, like just the fans kind of in the Northeast. And so, yeah, I'm watching a little bit of the Red Sox. And then attend to the Mets as well, and then kind of individualized. And so I bounce around the league, kind of like that.
I mean, I guess going off of that, these are two, you're looking at the Red Sox, obviously underperforming early on. The Mets kind of had a little bit of it was a wobbly start, but now they're 6-4. People were making basically it was already a funeral dirge for this team. What are your early impressions of these two teams?
I think with the Mets early on, like they pitched really well. I mean, we've gone through, I say the Mets have gone through the rotation two times. And maybe other than the Peterson start, I think it's been like nine really good chances to win, especially if you think about, getting through 5 innings, in the modern game. And so they've done that. They swung the bats well opening day. There was a little bit of a scuffle, you could say, through St. Louis and kind of that first game in San Francisco. But I was really encouraged to take the three straight from San Francisco and some of the the things I'm watching for the Mets is one is I want to see them. I think that they should, in order to raise their floor, be really good against left-handed pitching. Because then
Hmm.
someone like Marcus Simeon, Luis Robert, Vientos, these guys get the platoon advantage. So I think it'll really raise their floor as a team if they could take advantage of left-handed pitching. And I thought we saw the signs of a good club yesterday, and that when the Giants made a couple mistakes on defense, the Mets really took advantage of that late in the game and put that game out of reach, against a left-handed reliever. So I think those are some of the things I'm encouraged by. Obviously, I think the Soto injury, you're in a little bit of wait and see. He's going to
Yeah.
be, the Mets are off today, so they're going to give him as much time before they try to make a decision on whether or not he's going to go on the shelf or, continue to stay in the lineup. I'd say I'm very encouraged by the way Polanco swung the bat. I think he's going to be a good offensive player, has great at bats,
Hmm.
maybe somewhat paying attention to how well he moves and how healthy he is. It's early in the season, you're 10 games in, and I don't think you're going to get healthier necessarily if
Yes.
you know what I mean, unless you
Yeah.
end up kind of going on the IL. And so hats off to him for playing through what seems to be a somewhat aggravated Achilles. But I think that Brett Beatty, Jared Young has done awesome here in the early days, and
Hmm.
and so you go out on that road trip, you end up what is that? You end up going, was that 500? No, I can't count now. Lost two out of three, so what? You won four, lost three, so 4-3 road trip.
Yeah.
It's a good trip. You feel like maybe you left something on the table because you wanted to win the series in St. Louis, but to win a four-game set is nice going into the off day, and so that's and I don't haven't haven't probably paid quite as much attention to the bullpen, I don't think, but they've done their job. I
Mhm.
would say they haven't really, given anything up they weren't supposed to yet.
Yeah. No, I've been fairly impressed with the bullpen thus far, and it was such a question mark once Edwin Diaz decided to skip town for the Dodgers.
Yeah,
I do think that will end up. I thought that when Edwin didn't get retained, that the Mets would end up being half a player behind until
Hmm.
the next time the market opened up, which will be the trade deadline. That
Yeah.
was just my feeling. And so, doesn't mean you can't win, doesn't mean, you can't still win it all, win the division. I do think that you could see by how much the Mets pursued him and liked him while he was here that it just leaves them maybe just half a tick behind in that bullpen from where they want to be. But also that can be addressed at the trade deadline.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. You talk about well, my beloved Cardinals winning that series against the Mets.
Mhm.
I became a Daniel Murphy fan when you single-handedly beat the Cubs in 2015. So I've always wanted to say thank you for that. I just want to take this opportunity to yeah,
Oh,
my
well,
arch rival.
I appreciate that. Single-handedly is quite a way to describe it, but caught a heater,
Yeah,
got to drive some guys in on base, but it was yeah, that was the idea that we swept them as well as the Cubs were playing is oh is as memorable of any experience I've ever had in baseball because it just was completely against the run of play, to beat them four straight.
yeah, and then they ended up winning the World Series the next year anyway. But
Yeah.
thanks Cleveland for that. A big storyline so far in this season has been ABS. How have you felt about that, or any positive, negative reactions on that, or could you have used it back in the day?
I would have liked to have used it back in the day, if it could, especially like more east and west. So like I was actually talking to my wife Tori last night. Like I got pretty good at knowing where the outside corner was, like pretty good at understanding where that was because I wanted to know where that was and almost put like a block on that and then try to pull the pitcher into me from there because I'm trying to hit the ball in the right center field gap. As far as the ABS, I've thought so far that the tempo of getting the review in and getting the game moving has been good, especially
Mhm.
since it's been early and it hasn't been tested out in the big leagues other than spring training. So I've really enjoyed that. I think that we're seeing.
Your volume went off. I don't know if
I'll
it was.
ask y'all a question this right now. Are they measuring it from the middle of the plate, I believe, not the front of the plate? Did I hear that? Have y'all
I
heard
believe
that
that's
at all?
correct. I
Yeah.
Okay,
believe
so the
that.
middle of the plate, which would then make the zone smaller. But I do think that the umpires have done a really good job. We're seeing that the catchers seem to have the best feel for the strike
Mhm.
zone, followed by the hitters. Finally, the pitchers probably ought not touch their hats much at all, it seems.
Which I find absolutely hilarious. The fact that the guy throwing the ball is the one with like the worst
Well,
possible perception of where it's ending
there's a
up.
little bias in there because
Yeah.
my wife pitched at University of North Florida, and she was a softball player. I ain't run into a pitcher yet that didn't think it was a strike. Probably
Well,
the same way you haven't run into a hitter yet that didn't think it was a ball. But we're a little closer to the fight, so maybe that's why we see it better.
do you think eventually ABS will end up benefiting pitchers more or the hitters more?
Hitters.
Yeah, why is
It's a
that?
tighter strike zone. It's
Hmm.
just tighter. I think you could even see how much the box on the TV and the awareness that the umpires have on it. His, the tighter strike zone, I think it's more beneficial to the offensive player. If you have to keep the pitcher on the plate east and west, I feel like, at least me personally, as a hitter, I have much more of a chance. I don't
Hmm.
mind north and south as much because my bat's only so long. So
Right.
if I know that you have to come over the plate, I feel like I can make adjustments easier north and south than I can east and west.
I mean, it might level the playing field a little bit. We've just seen so many advancements in pitching, even in the last 5, 10 years, where it's like,
Hmm.
okay, can the hitters actually compensate for this? Do you feel like there's a world where I guess the science behind hitting can catch up to all the kind of the optimization that pitchers are going through?
Yeah, I do. I think that right now there have been huge advances in pitching and how they spin the ball, the velocity at which they're able to, I would call it like weapons, like kill
Mhm.
shots that they're able to go to. There hasn't been that much progression in availability. That is going in the opposite direction, a direction, unfortunately, that robs us of the players, and nobody wants to see them being hurt.
Mhm.
I do think, though, that like I'm more old school, like sincerely. Like I think that if you drop Babe Ruth in our game right now, he would be the greatest offensive force we see in the modern game.
So,
Because I think that the positions that Ruth got into are different than the positions I was taught to get into, partly because we learned the game differently. So Babe didn't learn the game, and Ted Williams and Hank Aaron, they didn't learn the game with coaches around them telling, put your hands here, do your bat here. He learned the game unsupervised with his peers. So
yeah.
he was given this canvas at which to create. And the only problems he really needed to solve was you get 3 strikes, 4 balls, 3 outs. And if you want to be better than your peer out there, you better learn how to be accurate before he gets 3 strikes on you. And so that's different than a bit of the coaching and teaching we do with our youth players now, where it's like, all right, put your feet here, stand here, and you can kind of see a little bit more mechanical, I'd
Mhm.
say a little bit more confined and constrained swings and movements. Whereas if you watch Babe Ruth or Lou Gehrig, these guys had style. They
Yeah.
had some style. Mel Ott had style to his swing. Funny little aside about Mel Ott. If you ever go to a youth baseball game and they're hitting off the tee, some of the young players, the hitters, they'll size the tee up with their bat. I don't know if you've
Mhm.
ever seen them do that before. They'll kind of
Yeah.
take the bat to it, size it up, and then come back and swing. That's the same thing Mel Ott was doing. He just took the tee away. Children are smart. They're the smartest ones I know because they understand games.
Mhm.
And so my boys, not because I'm smart at all, but my boys get in the same positions that Babe Ruth and Ted Williams do. I didn't teach them that. But what Williams had was a giant, heavy bat that he had to learn how to hurl his entire body into position to hit the ball. Whereas we get like wiffle ball bats and aluminum bats that you can overpower with your hands more.
Mhm.
And so the best example I can give in the modern game would be Ken Griffey Jr.
Okay.
Junior moves different than the rest of us. You can see it. Your eyes tell you something. And so the way I think that Junior learned the game was I don't think his dad told him, get in this position, put your hands here, put your feet here. I think his old man, he grew up around heavy bats because he was in a major league clubhouse. And the way I teach my boys was, hey, you see that fence over there that's like 370 feet away? Hit it there as hard as you can. We'll figure out the accuracy later. You know what I mean? We'll just do it more,
Yeah.
but throw giant haymakers. And I think that Griffey moves differently than the rest of us did.
So it's almost like a simplification of the game for some of these hitters because
I
it,
do.
yeah,
I,
it's
I believe.
instinctual.
I think, yeah, I completely underestimated how Rogers Hornsby played the game and Babe Ruth. I was like, oh, these guys are only throwing 85 miles an hour. Like they couldn't handle our game in today's. But then I went and watched, and like some of the things that we talk about in the modern game about like getting the barrel on plane with the ball, if that makes sense, like
Mhm.
getting it on the plane with the ball. Well, it's tough to show here, but Ruth, who was a lefty, he would flatten the bat behind him like this, and then
Mhm.
he would just turn into the hit like a figure skater going for the gold. And so you end up creating more acceleration by turning than you do more in the modern game. We kind of we teach a kind of like hands inside the ball approach. And then like I'll tell my team all the time, like not every ball has to be fair.
Yeah.
Like I don't have to make this ball fair. If I miss high and foul, I'll get to hit again. So I don't have to make every ball fair. Which situations in the game tell me I get to take a chance, and which situations say, okay, this is a good ball to hit. You might want to make sure you get this ball fair. If there's a runner on third base, less than 2 outs. Play catch with the center fielder so that you can get that run in.
And now you as a player, was this a conclusion that you came to while you were playing the game? Was something that developed over years, or just something that you just picked up naturally from the beginning?
I like watching hitting and I like watching people move. I never took a foundational stand on like this is my view on like hitting and hitting mechanics. I would more talk to somebody like a hunter, like we're going out here and I got to hunt this pitcher in this strike zone and get this ball where I want to solve the problems the scoreboard gives me. But when I got done playing, I ended up kind of more getting introduced to like Ted Williams and Babe Ruth, and I was like,
Hmm.
oh, we didn't move the same way, and then we didn't learn the game the same way, and so that's why I went back to go play in 2023. So I went and played with Wally Backman in Long Island with the
Yeah.
Ducks. And then got a job in AAA with the Angels. Thank you very much, Halos. I appreciate it. They let me get shoveled off in Albuquerque. New Mexico was the last place I played, and I'm forever grateful to both Long Island and the Angels for that. But I wanted to try this thesis out. I was like,
Mhm.
okay, here's how I think Ted Williams moved. And I had enough tricks and experiences to kind of put myself in that position, or at least as best I thought. And so I was like, let me try this out. And
And
there is an idea. Oh, go ahead, please
no,
forgive
no,
me.
no, please continue.
So there's just last one. There's just all this stuff comes back to me from the dead ball era because I love it. Well, I've been like consuming my baseball now. I've been kind of consuming my baseball 1900 to 1940 for probably like the last 3 or 4 years. Like
Okay.
it's like this whole new world of baseball has been opened up to me. One thing those guys had to learn how to do was to throw a punch like a pitcher that you threw over and over again. They weren't allowed to break. Because if you break, you had to go to the coal mines. And that's a completely different incentive than we have
Yes.
in the modern game. If I broke, I might go be a travel ball coach, which we need baseball coaches by all means. But that's a far different life experience than it would be, having to go work the railroad or something like that.
Right.
So I think that they looked at the game a little bit more simply and a little bit more foundationally than we do. I think Christy Mathewson said something that rocked my world. He said that batters only recognize two types of pitch balls, curve and straight. And
Yeah.
when I heard this, I was in the Radisson in Long Island. And I was like, oh my, because that's been my experience. So the
Yeah.
best changeups I ever hit in my entire career, I didn't know it was a changeup until I was running around the bases.
Huh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All it was I was looking for like maybe a fastball. The changeup was up. And so now since it's slower, it puts me on time to the pull side, which is where I'm going to do most of my damage. And it's up in the zone. So I'm going to eliminate the infielders. I don't have to worry about them. And I didn't know it was a changeup until I was running the bases. Another one you might think is the cement mixing slider that gets hit to the moon. All
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
So it just sits there, right? And the batter
Mhm.
is something to waffle that thing like 470 feet. And you're like, and so in my mind, I think, okay, and in my experience, if I'm looking straight and the ball comes in straight, I just think it's a straight ball. So even
Mhm.
though it's meant to be a curve or a slider, I call sliders a curve. Even though it's meant to be a curve, the
That way.
batter perceives it as straight.
Hmm.
Now the spin's already built into it. So you don't even have to reverse the spin the way you do on a fastball. You know what I mean? You have to reverse that spin and it puts you on time to the pull side. It gets you in the pull gap. So you got the spin built in, you're in the pull side, and then you just sock it. And you'll see, like, I think that the batter didn't identify that immediately as like slider, breaking ball. I think it was like, that's a straight ball that I want. And as you swing, you're like, oh, that was supposed to be a breaker. It didn't break. It
Sure.
didn't fool me. Well,
Yeah.
because the curve is meant to be a pitch of deception. It's meant to be presented as straight, and then it curves
Hmm.
one way or the other. So it's like the batter goes to swing at a straight ball, and the pitcher goes, "Wait a sec, that wasn't a straight ball." As you go to offer at it.
I love this mixture though because it's both in the intellectual curiosity but also simplification and like marrying the two. Uh,
hmm
kind
I
of
had to
like
try it out. That's why I
yeah.
did. Like Christy Mathewson's book, it's called Pitching in a Pinch. I've probably listened to it like 5 or 6 times, and it's just got these like just pearls of wisdom that he's just given away. And I was just consuming it. There's another book called The Glory of Their Times that
Mhm.
talks to, I think it was Lawrence Ritter, talks to players who played in the dead ball era. Like just went and interviewed him. Like Sam Crawford talks to him. He's a Hall of Famer. Davy Jones. There's another one in there. Oh, I'm forgetting his name, but it may come to me. But just like these guys that just got down 16-man rosters. They're talking about like one of them, he gets Hans Lobert. That's who it was because he
Mhm.
played with Honus Wagner. Part of the reason why I enjoyed Hans Lobert so much was at the end of his life, he just was broke, not because he had
Mhm.
done anything wrong. I think the crash had get him, and he had lost some money there. And he was just really struggling. And actually, Lawrence Ritter really helped him out, kind of get a TV. Couldn't even watch baseball. But I went and looked up Hans Lobert's career. Is the same career I had,
Oh,
same
wow.
production. And yet here I am. I get to talk ball with you. You know what I mean? On a Monday when I should be working somewhere doing a 9 to 5. And why? Because I happened to be born 100 years later. Because it wasn't because I was better, in my opinion. And so,
Right.
like, this stuff is just like pearls. But he would talk about, like, he got hit in the head one time. He finished the game. There's only 16
Jeez.
man rosters.
Wow.
So it's a different ball game. Like,
Yeah. He
as tough as we think we are in the modern game,
didn't have a union.
even if I get out there and pitch, I don't know how many guys will climb in there with a helmet with no helmet.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
there's no
incredible.
union collective bargain for that.
No, there's
Uh,
somebody waiting to take your position.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was always fascinated by some of the names that baseball players had coming up in like the 1900s, and I pulled up a list. A couple of these here: Pickles Dillhofer, Buttercup Dickerson, Chicken Wolf, Germany Schaefer, Hippo
Germany
Vaughn.
Schaefer, I remember that. He's supposed to be a comedian. I think Germany Schaefer he had a home run to win a ball game. And darn near almost did cartwheels all the way around. I've heard that name before. He was in that book, Glory of Their Times. Not interviewed, but they told stories about him.
Icebox Chamberlain, Twinkie Bunny. It's not funny.
Winky
Possum
Bunny.
witted Baby Doll Jackson.
Good for him.
I would probably myself. I would probably still have to use a T-ball or a tee for to hit a baseball because I wasn't very good. So
Well,
It's unfortunate. So, I mean, I guess before we start wrapping this up a little bit, I mean, you're talking about kind of like hitters and their potential. Who do you feel on the Mets roster right now is primed to have a breakout season? Because they do have a few players that are a little bit more in terms of unknown. Like you're looking at a guy like Mark Vientos who put it together and then didn't really, and then a
mm.
guy like Brett Beatty who maybe started hitting left-handers a little bit better last year. Is there anybody that sticks out in your mind?
Well, I think that like Soto is just such a steady force. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen anyone in the modern game be as focused on each individual pitch as he is when he takes his at bats. And I've said this before, but like that's a choice. I've given away enough pitches to know that it's a choice to attend to every single pitch to this one with everything you have. I think we're still waiting for Francisco a bit of health, a bit of salud. Not that he can't play, and
Mhm.
I mean, he just kind of Iron Man to him. But I think that his power will take a little bit with the hamate bone that he had,
Yeah.
and with Bo, you can trust the back of his baseball card. And we talked about Plunko. It's Beatty for me. I think is a big one. And how much success he has this year. I think that he looks already is improving on last year. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And I think the floor that he was able to raise and really show himself in the league that like I'm a major league player and an everyday player. I think it'll be interesting to see how well he's able to continue to do offensively as he bounce around positions.
Right.
That's no easy task to do, maybe even more so for a young player.
Yeah.
But I think that the veteran leadership he has will help him with that. And then again, I kind of go back to left-handed pitching. I think that will help get Vientos in a good spot, if he can see some left-handed pitching and he's had
Mhm.
some success and then hopefully carry that over to righties because it'll just make the lineup and the bench longer. And then I think as well with like Marcus Simeon, it'd be
Mhm.
best if Marcus really hammers left-handed pitching like he did yesterday.
Yeah.
Because you just take it, in my opinion, a lot of baseball is the more I watch, and I could be wrong, it's about the platoon advantage. When
Mhm.
I get in a pinch, I'm looking to find the platoon advantage.
Okay.
Should I pass you to get to the next guy? I mean, and this is not a knock on, Tony Vitello, but just in the first series of the year against the Giants, I was watching the game with my son, my 8-year-old Drew, and he wants to watch Aaron Judge hit. I'm like, yeah, let's watch right-handed Babe Ruth. We should do this. We're not going to get to do this all the time. And so he's facing Robbie Ray with Paul Goldschmidt had hit a double, runner on second base, nobody out. First is open against a lefty. When you face right-handed Babe Ruth with a base open and left-handed pitcher, you walk
Mm.
him.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah.
That just you walk him. And if you don't want to walk him by just putting him on, it ends up being a full-on result play. if he gets a base hit, your decision making was wrong.
Mhm.
If you get him out, it was right. I would rather just pass him. And then
Yeah.
they did something not similar, but let the next day, because San Francisco wasn't soaring, they let a left-handed reliever face Aaron Judge with nobody on. But even then, I'm like, I would rather walk you and see if you can score on a double from first base
Yeah.
than get a ball to hit against the lefty. And so it's little things like that that I'm always looking for in pinches. Like I want that platoon advantage as best I can.
That makes a lot of sense. Cole, do you have any last ones for Daniel?
I just want to play a little Daniel Murphy trivia history before I let him go. So first question, August 2nd, 2008. Do you remember what happened that day?
That was my debut in
Yes.
Houston. I believe as well that I debuted the same day as Walter Johnson and Albert Pujols. I believe. A little trivia back at you.
All right.
We'll
Oh,
check
wow.
tape
Okay.
on that off air. The Walter Johnson one is like that one. I mean, Pujols is obviously, but once I got into like the dead ball era, I was like, oh snap, me and Walter. Well, there's a beauty I love about baseball, and like there is something I love about war because I think that it compares you to your peers, and I think it crosses time. And
Hmm.
so I can go and look at a Hans Lobert and say, wow, like we were similar at how much better we were than our peers, or how I wouldn't say better, how productive we were in comparison to our peers, because you can
Yeah.
only be as good as your peers, in my opinion. So that's why I'll spend time on fan graphs, like weighted runs created, like that type of stuff. It's
Yeah.
why I have Ruth as the greatest offensive force ever, because his weighted runs created dwarfs second place, which I think is Ted Williams. And it's almost like a whole level better than Ted Williams. And so, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
little more my dead ball era talk.
I love that
So
stuff.
you got your first hit that day. Do you remember which pitcher you got it off of?
This is Roy Oswalt on a breaking ball
Bingo.
that 10
Damn.
that 10 years later would be a stone cold 4-3, and I would have got thrown out by 6 steps because you would have been shifting me.
uh, Follow up to that, August 9th, 2008. Do you remember what happened that day?
Okay, so that's my wife's birthday, so I definitely remember that because I love her and she is so gracious. I had forgot her birthday. We were dating,
No.
but I think I hit a home run
Yes.
off of Reno Pinto
Yes. There
to
you go.
left
That was
center
my,
field.
yeah.
And then my girlfriend at the time, wife now, mother of our 4 children, was saying, she goes, I almost couldn't be happy for you because you absent-minded, scoundrel forgot my birthday. But 8-9, so I haven't forgot that yet.
There you
Again,
go.
since then. So yeah, it's
Yeah. First
I
home
think I had
run,
a
and
home
you,
run. Mhm.
yeah, and you
You
remembered
will
the
never
pitcher it was
forget
off of.
again.
I also was pleasantly. I didn't know Lance Berkman was on that squad, the Big Puma.
He was on the Astros team we played against? Or
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
no.
yeah. Or no,
Okay.
or maybe I read the. Did he go back to the Astros? Because he was on the Astros before that. Maybe.
Uh.
I guess he never did play for the Mets, did he? My research is gone. I looked up the 2006 draft, and you were 349th, I think. Paul Goldschmidt was in like the last round of that draft. He was drafted 1,453rd.
And that tells
Okay.
you
I
everything
wonder
you
if
need to
that out
know.
of high school. Because I think he might have he might have
Yeah,
ended
yeah.
up going.
Woodlands High School.
Okay, because I think he went to Texas State and he might have gone like in the eighth round, a couple years later.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was just
Paul. Oh my goodness, what a career he's had. I
yeah.
got to see
Incredible.
him at the WBC. All right, little aside, I took
And
so
you
my
were
son's birthday. Yeah, I went out to
2017.
Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my son's birthday is on opening day. And so usually we try to go catch a ball game, but I asked him this year, I go, hey, you want to go and try to catch the Americans on the WBC circuit? And he's
Hmm.
like, yeah, jackpot. So we
Yeah.
ended up in Houston, and I know just enough people to kind of like stalk out where the team hotel was. So we stayed there. And we ran into Paul and Kyle Schwarber. And it was an interesting case for the people working at the hotel because they came up because my son's 12 and he's like asking for autographs. And then I like kind of go with him and then talk some ball with like Schwarber because we were teammates. But one of the gentlemen came up and was like, all right, it seems like you have a relationship with the players, but if you're going to ask for autographs, could you do it out by the bus? I was like, fair play. You do that. So I walked out to the bus, and Bryce came walking by to get on the bus. And, a couple people are calling Bryce. And so I go, Bryce. we balled together in DC. And he looks over and he goes, Murph. So he came over and
Oh.
talked to us and signed my boy's stuff. And then we went to the ball game that night in Houston. It was a great
Amazing
trip.
stuff. That's
That's
amazing.
amazing.
I have, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
well, one final thing. This is hot in the baseball streets. Joe Adell,
Mhm.
3 home run robberies. Big topic of conversation is if you go over the wall and you still catch the ball,
Mm.
should that count as a home run or not?
Are you asking my opinion?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
he
Yeah.
fell off the other
Oh,
side.
out,
Right.
Out.
in my
Like,
Okay.
opinion.
I think that's the
I don't
most
know if
common.
that's the rule by the rule book, but I think that if you secure the ball, you go through the fence, over the fence, into the
yeah,
dugout, I think it belongs to you. It's your
Yeah,
ball.
yeah.
there's a lot of contrarians out there who seem to believe that,
Oh, come on.
yeah, I know it's ridiculous. Like if he leaves his feet, they're trying to like, is it a catch? Like they're trying to NFL
It's
ice
No,
it,
ridiculous.
I
you don't have
guess.
to get 2 feet in. Just make it yours. If that
That's
thing
it.
belongs to you, it's yours.
There you go.
My last party shot, I do have a Daniel Murphy story. The date was December 24th, 2015. I am upstate, helping my friend get engaged. I am climbing a mountain in Converse. I have the engagement ring in my hand. Come back down, we go celebrate. I have 3 glasses of wine. I get a phone call from my editor. Daniel Murphy has signed with the Nationals. So I'm fighting for my life writing this story on Christmas Eve. And so that is
Oh,
my
I'm
Daniel
so.
Murphy story.
Oh, forgive me for ruining your
No,
celebration
not
of
at
Jesus'
all.
birthday. Forgive me. I tell you what though, at the time, like it was a slow market, like
It
for
was,
me
yeah.
specifically, and it wasn't like there wasn't a whole lot of desire for my skill set, at least not for multiple years. So like when we did that, we were like, we got to move on this. I mean,
100%.
Christmas be darned a little bit right now. We need to find a job. We'll celebrate, as we go along with it. But I didn't know that caught you on that. Oh my goodness
No,
gracious.
I look back on it now, so I'm like, this story must have been garbage. I'm like, oh, actually, for the
Oh,
situation, it wasn't that bad.
oh, that's cool. Yeah, it was. Yeah, go to NL East rival, and I was.
And he killed
It
it
was a
there.
wild ride. Yeah,
Yeah.
we play well. Cole was talking about the Cubs in 16, and it's like we had a good team in DC in 16 and 17. Like we had a good club. Just couldn't quite get out of that first round. That's
Yeah, it was
probably
a fun team.
it was the one Clayton Kershaw got me in 2016 in game 5. He beat me to the spot. Honestly, it's one of those ones where I say if you're going to miss foul, that's what I
Hmm.
should have done because I tried
Oh.
to be perfect and I popped it up. I should have just hooked it to heck and back and I would have got to hit again, but such is
Well,
life.
well, you tagged Clayton in 2015, right? Wasn't he one of the guys who homered off?
Yeah, Clayton and
Yeah.
I hooked up in 15 a couple times. Yeah, we did.
It's
There
all
you go.
balanced out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, Dan, thank you so, so much for taking some time to talk to us. This was fantastic. Really appreciate it.
Oh, cheers. Thank you for having me. It was some good ball talk. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You too.